Yeah. Dude, this is the day. The day. It's got chocolate chip cookies too, my friend. Okay, so let's start. And first off, this is Laurie Mulvey.
Hi, everyone.
All right. Simon's about 3 seconds behind everybody else, my friend, so you'll get that.
Or a couple minutes before.
Okay, so usually what happens every semester, I coerce Laurie into coming into class, and we do a class together. And a number of years ago, we were just in the middle of a conversation, and she put this a bunch of ideas together, a string of ideas together. And what often happens is she puts ideas together, and I write them down, and then I come and talk about them in class, and everyone thinks they're my ideas, but they're not. But in this particular case, she didn't allow me to do that, so she would come in and do this class. And you titled it. Anyway, thanks for coming, by the way.
Oh my God.
Thanks for coming. Well, it's hard because on one hand I'm doing this energy here.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm doing this energy here, and then I'm also thinking about the cameras. So
okay.
So you're just here.
Yeah.
Okay. So the title of those ideas that she strung together was called "The Needy Penis," and it was not about my penis. It was about the needy. Well, it's just about the needy penis.
Oh my God. This is like the worst introduction.
Oh, it's going to get worse.
I can feel that. Oh my God.
So here's what I want you to do. But Laurie said,
wait.
Listen.
Can I just say that lecture was not just a conversation that I was stringing ideas together. It was a whole life experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, really, it really gets at very important issues about gender and,
Yep.
sexuality and
Yep.
marriage.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Living with a heterosexual man.
Yes.
Laurie always said that for the most part, students of a certain age wouldn't understand the idea of a needy penis, but your parents would. And so usually when we do this class, we ask people to send a text to their mothers and ask them, is the penis needy? And then the responses we get back are really fascinating. But we're not. You can do that if you want, but we're not going to really go there today. But we are going to go here. What I've said is, well, you can imagine how your mother would respond if you asked her, is the penis needy? But we're going to go here, Dr. Mulvey, and I'm going to ask you to summarize that entire lecture in 10 minutes.
Wait a second. Can you does anyone know what's going on here?
No, why don't you tell them?
What's going on here?
Okay.
Sam said, I'm not inviting you to come and do the needy penis lecture, but I'm inviting you to come to class. Don't think about it. When you get there, you'll find out.
Okay.
And so here I am.
Okay, so we're going to...
And then there's that. Oh, wait, not that. The next slide.
No, we're going to start over.
Okay, we're going to start over.
So you're not doing the needy penis lecture.
Okay.
But you are going to answer a bunch of questions that I'm going to put out to you.
Okay.
I have a list of questions concerning gender, race, ethnicity, culture, lots of things. But we're going to start with the needy penis one just to get it out of the way. And so what would be really nice is if you could respond to this question, which would be really a summary of that lecture in maybe like 8 to 10 minutes or less. You could do it in less, but don't do it too quickly. Like let people really understand what the basic idea is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So don't plan anything when you come to class, but then do a 10-minute lecture when you get here.
Okay, you can do it in 5 minutes.
All right, Sam.
All right.
All right. But this happens to all of you too, I know, right? He pulls you up here, and then all of a sudden something else is happening that you didn't expect. So I feel that, okay?
You feel their pain.
It's my turn now, okay. So I didn't think this is what we were talking about, but Okay, so where do I start? Why did the needy penis lecture emerge? Pardon? The Needy Penis Lecture is a lecture about the needy penis. And the title is not really what the lecture is about per se. It's just sort of a twist. After you hear the whole lecture, you sort of understand why. But the idea is that as a woman living in a heterosexual relationship, in a relationship that's a good relationship. I love this guy. I've been with him for a really long time. I trust him. I feel like I have an equal voice in the relationship. All those really good things, right? I think I said it's heterosexual, just to add that to the framework. At some point in time, I started getting this experience this is the background, okay? This is why you have to know this. I started getting this experience that's the way that my body was reacting in moments of sexual encounter was somehow wrong. And I was getting that message from lots of different subtle but powerful sources, not just from my partner in some low-key ways, but from myself, just like something happens to women and there's something wrong with their desire. Like they should want to have sex in a certain way, a certain amount of time, whatever, right? And I started how can I be feeling so negative about all of this, the intimacy with this person that I love? Like, how can that be? How could there be something wrong? I don't feel like there's anything wrong. So anyway, this was the birth of the thoughts and conversation that led to the lecture, that led to a whole kind of, for me, awakening, if you will, about gender and gender inequity, maybe woman-centered world, male-centered world, okay?
Yep.
What would I tell you about sex in a male-centered world compared to sex in a female-centered world? We could have just done this, Sam.
No, you're going to do it fast. I have other questions for you.
The clitoris. That's what I can tell you. The clitoris. We forget the clitoris.
Here, let me help you with that.
That's what I can tell you. Yeah, exactly. That's the clitoris. For those of you who don't understand, to know, it's an organ in the female body. It exists. It's a real thing. It's not just an idea. And it, as far as we can tell so far, is only designed for one thing: pleasure, right? And on top of that, and so this is inequality, right? Women have this. On top of that, the way it feels pleasure is actually when you do things to it that are exactly the opposite of having sex in the way that works well for men. So it's, in other words, when you have sex, heterosexual, sexual intercourse, penis, vaginal penetration, when you have sex in that way, which tends to be fast, rough, hard, all that stuff, actually isn't the best thing for the clitoris. The clitoris actually likes soft and slow. And these guys got it. Yeah. So anyway, when you start to really think about all of that, you might wonder why it is that when we learn about sex, and obviously there's reproductive sex, for those of us who that matters to, obviously, most humans. But when you're talking about intimacy and relationship and all that dimension of sexuality, for women and men, the way they get the most pleasure doesn't necessarily jive. And you don't necessarily know that until you've been in a relationship for a long time. You all might know that right now. And if you think about it, you'll know that. But what I experienced was that was not obvious to me. That was not told to me. And what I learned was that if my body didn't really want that anymore, there was something wrong with me. And so this is the beginning of the entry into this whole idea of a male-centered way of having sex, which is one of the most personal things you can imagine doing. And as a woman, if I'm having sex in a way that is pleasurable to my male partner but not pleasurable to me, where did I learn that, and why am I still doing that, and why do I feel bad about myself?
And so connected to that are all the images that you've seen. 98% of the images that you see in the world are of sex from a male perspective. Hard, fast, quick, it happens quickly. People engage one another, people are aroused together, and then they have an orgasm.
And then it's
together.
over. No, right. They don't, but it's over when an orgasm happens, which is the man's orgasm.
Because
usually.
only 1 out of 4 women can have an orgasm during penetration.
Regularly.
Which means that if you're all the ways we depict sex in the world, which is 2 people come together, very quickly they get aroused, and women get aroused much more slowly than men do.
Yeah, sometimes.
And then...
Just differently.
And then, so here, then they have sex, and sex is through penetration.
They have intercourse.
Yep.
Sex is a lot of other things, not just intercourse.
Yes, which is how, and we don't talk about that either.
Right. So I don't, as far as, well, anyway. But one idea is that sex, that thing, when you cross that line into sex, that's usually associated with, and again, heterosexual world we're talking about right now, just heterosexual world. It's usually associated with intercourse, right? Not like the woman with the clitoris who just had an orgasm some other way, right? It's just such an interesting realm. And obviously it's connected to the possibility of pregnancy and all of those things that happen when you have intercourse that are beyond just pleasure. So we get that. We all get that. But we also all know that we have sex for a lot of other reasons besides procreation. So so we have to think about that.
And when 3 out of 4 women cannot reach the maximum pleasure during intercourse, it means that 3 out of 4 women who are depicted in all of these images about sex are unhappy because they're unfulfilled. Unless something else happened, that they were able to pleasure themselves or something, but that's not what's shown.
But it's a well-kept secret, evidently.
Yeah.
And so the idea is, why talk about this? Because there's lots of things. Like, if this is true, if like we're seeing all these images and we're learning all of these things and nobody's telling us any different, well then what else is true or not true that we're getting the wrong information about, right? What else about society do we do in our own, what about society is like lived through our own personal experience that we never question, or that we never see, right? So so this is just a really powerful way, from my experience, to see society, and to see gender, and to see what's at stake. So I think, like, when you think about talking about the differences in pay, for example, between gender, that's real, but there's a lot of other real things too that, in some ways are almost more profound. Well, that we could carry these through in our own personal relationships.
Well, one of the things that you've said about how this is so profound is that it's happening in the most intimate spaces in our lives. The intimacy of our bedrooms. We see this profound inequality between men and women and in heterosexual relationships.
Yeah, or just like you and I. Like, I've never felt more respected and seen and valued than I do in this relationship with this human right here, this one. No, I'm so serious. And like, to think that like all of a sudden, like, I'm feeling smaller and smaller and more ashamed and all these things in this relationship, like, and it's not, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on? And it's cool to really think like, whoa, the societies and what we learn and all that stuff can be like right in between us. And it is. And this isn't the only issue. You all have been talking about stuff all semester, and will for the rest of your lives, where that's true. But it's true. It happens.
Well, right. And so you think about society, like larger issues and conversations we have, like sex, and like the importance of the penis and the importance of a big penis, and like this idea that we have that, well, women just need a bigger penis and then they'll be more satisfied. And so the idea that what you've laid out is that, look, it doesn't matter. The size of the penis is completely irrelevant, because 3 out of 4 women will be unfulfilled. It will just be, no matter what happens, it will simply be more uncomfortable for women, because what women want to be fulfilled, to reach that arousal, is slow and soft.
And so just like lots of things in the world that appear to be a conflict because there's a difference, right? And I would say this is a profound difference, the way our bodies are built. Really, really profound difference. What I think we often forget is that's an opportunity, right? So it's an opportunity for co-creation. For like, okay, what do we do with these different bodies that can experience pleasure and can experience arousal and all these things that equal, in many cases, to intimacy and building the relationship, but we don't want the same things, or they don't feel the same way. Wow. We have a creative opportunity. If we take the opportunity. And I don't know, it seems like one of the parts of the blueprint of life is that most things are designed to have a constant creative tension to them.
Sex
endless
is
conflict.
One.
Yeah, sex is one of them.
Do you like, can I just speak to men for a second?
Of course.
All right, listen, Mom. Men. Like, when you think about when men get together, and the kind of narrow-minded understanding of sex, so heterosexual men, right? The narrow-minded understanding of sex. To build any kind of conversation around sex, and sex is better when it's really about the penis. And what I just said about, a larger penis, a harder...
Hang on. You say more.
Yeah. That it's like what we've done is we've hijacked an entire conversation so that it's about men and what makes men happy and what men want to see, and has nothing to do with women. Especially when 3/4 of all women in the world are never going to be satisfied by men doing what men are supposed to be doing according to all of the images out in the world.
And what works for their bodies.
And what works for the bodies. And so what this means is then there's this incredible gulf between partnerships that no matter what you do, it's like the man is over here wanting one thing, the woman is over here wanting another thing. And if we don't open ourselves to seeing this profound difference, it's like we have this gulf that goes with us, not only in the world, not only in the workplace, not only in politics, but actually into the intimacy of our own bedroom. And and if it's there, what makes us think that men and women are equal in other aspects of the world, of sociological life, right? So it's cool. It's cool. It's been, I will say just for me, it's been really ground shifting. And for our relationship, but certainly for me in understanding inequality. Okay. Do we want to move on?
I'm just here to follow.
Oh, all right.
I guess.
Well, I had these quotes up here. We can keep going with this for a second, or we can just move on to the next thing.
It's up to you.
It's really
I don't know.
funny.
I can't tell. what is needed.
Can you just rant for 2 seconds?
No.
I believe in you.
Just rant for a second.
The size or distance of a woman's clitoris from her vagina may affect her ability to orgasm.
It's like the fact that you can't have an orgasm during intercourse is your problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe we can surgically adjust that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what that is. I mean, come on.
Dude, when 3 out of 4 women can't have an orgasm during intercourse, that's the norm. That's beyond the norm. That's actually not a problem. It's just it's a rarity when a woman can. And so, but then we turn around and we talk about this. It's like, oh, the problem is you, right? Or you could take an injection maybe that'll help you get over that problem or whatever. So we can move on.
Yeah,
we can be done with
I think
this.
the point.
All right, I want to do this. All right. I'm going to show you 3 slides.
Okay.
And I want you to talk about what you wish you would have known when you were in your you were a teenager in your early 20s, basically an undergraduate student. Like, I knew you knew it intellectually, but I wish what you wish you would have known from a larger just a larger kind of, just in a way, okay? And you can take this any way you want, okay? So these are the last slides that you will have seen, by the way. So here's this one. What's this an advertisement for? No. Yeah, it's antiperspirant. And that.
Those two images? What do
these,
I...
Basically, these two images.
Okay.
So what do they call up in you that you wish you would tell your younger self about the world, about just how you're seen, how you're expected to be, how like one thing after another. Just what would it...
It's a funny response. I have an immediate response. The immediate response is, I wish my mother and grandmother didn't mislead me and make me, I mean, with their own best intentions, make me connect my value as a person to my physical beauty and to how much of my body I could show and feel like other people could see it and think it looked good or something. Yeah. So in other words, it wasn't just physical beauty, that it had to be physical beauty that I could expose. So that's why when I see that woman's body with the bikini, it was like I needed to be able to wear that and have every part of my body viewable by people and it be seen as attractive. And that was connected fundamentally to my value. Because I felt like I learned that I was more loved when I was more physically attractive. And it's just the biggest lie. And that wasn't actually, and that I wasn't objectifying myself in that process was the bigger twist, because I was.
So what do you mean you weren't objectifying
In
yourself?
other words, I didn't see myself as dressing like provocatively or for someone other than myself, or I was just like, oh, this is what looks good on me. This is what's appropriate. This is what works. And instead it was really, this is what you have to look like to be valued as an object.
So how... Can you just say something?
In other words, valued by people who the test was I have to be able to walk down the street and have people want to look at me and judge me as sexy or something in order for me to feel like I had value, even though that was disgusting and awful to feel. If somebody even did do that, like look at me and say, ugh, that'd be terrible. But somehow in my mind, I had to create that opportunity. So all I'm saying is if I could go back and tell myself not to listen to my mom and grandma, and not what they were saying, but just what they were showing me, that would have been the one thing, I think.
And is it just your mom and grandma, or does it go beyond?
No, but that's where it's most potent, right? I mean, these are the people who I trust and I look up to and think they have my best interest in mind. So they're telling me like, oh, you look good in that. Oh, people are going to think you love, whatever their way of saying that when I would try my clothes on or go to the store or buy something, this ordinary stuff.
So sometimes when I see, when I imagine...
And can I just say real quick?
Oh,
and so in my adult life now that I have lived and had opportunities to go to other places, in particular to places where women are talking about their daughters and covering them as they get, or the fact that they might choose to be covered when they're older, like on the right side of that picture. And I kind of, somewhere low-key inside of myself, I'm just like, wow, what would that have been like if my mom and grandmom were like, oh, I have to protect her. I mean, I don't know what other people are thinking, but that's the feeling that I have. Like, well, that would have been kind of cool to think that I don't know, I was protected. That's not the point. The point is that's just where this takes me. And so it's really interesting to see that and imagine that as a 20-year-old.
Okay, so now, how did that, because a lot of women feel empowered by this, right? Like the left image, or just being able to wear what they want to wear and that sort of thing. But you, how did that harm you? Like, how did that?
That's such a hard question. Do you really want? I don't think that it helps us as women. I just don't think.
I know you don't.
I think it's so hard for any human, all of us, men, women, all the spectrum, in the whole spectrum of humans. I don't think it helps any of us to not understand how profoundly we're shaped by our social world and all of the things that ask us to be a certain way so that we can feel like we belong. Because belonging for humans, feeling like we belong is like nourishment to us. Like we need that, like we need food. And in social life, the way we know how we belong is when we're like other people around us. And we also know that when we're not, that we suffer because of that, right? Even as much as we want to talk about diversity and inclusion and all that good stuff, like in our very own families, if we're not like people, we don't feel like we belong. And so if we don't realize how much we are trying to belong, I don't think we can actually even assess whether what we're wearing or how we show ourselves in the world is our own choice. And so I just think there's no profile of liberation. So as women, for example, we are not liberated by what we wear. Like that liberation is internal, and that is not at all. No, I can't tell anybody. I can't. There's no women right here. Like, oh, you wearing that is liberation. Oh, you wearing that is not. I don't know that. All I know it's an internal quality. That's it. Yeah, and it's possible and it's important, but I just don't think the conversation is about external. I think it's the dangers of being only focusing on the external are more to me than like knowing our insides.
Okay, thanks. Next one.
Damn, this is like a test.
Yep. So when you were in graduate school, and when you started graduate school, you told all your professors that you didn't ever want to see a grade. You didn't want them to grade you. They could give you a grade at the end of the semester, but you didn't ever want to see a grade on anything that you turned in, and you didn't want anyone telling you how well you were doing. You just basically said, I refuse to allow you to judge me. And then you just trusted that you were going forward, right? I've never heard another human being do that, and you did it. Mm-hmm. What was behind that? You can go anywhere you want to go. So
I was in graduate school here in Human Development and Family Studies. Is anyone part of that program? Is anyone? There have to be majors in here. Really? I really don't see anybody. Okay, anyway, Human Development and Family Studies was a study of the regression line for 5 years. So I came here to study people. I was like coming from social work, and I wanted to like learn about humans. And I studied y equals ax plus b for 5 years. And so in that process, I was just saying this earlier today. I came to understand the limits of human knowledge, which was pretty cosmic and cool. But in the process, I was like on the huge struggle bus trying to understand statistics and methods and calculus and matrix algebra, all this for me. But anyway, at some point I was like, I'm going to learn this. And I realized that I don't need some person to tell me that I learned it to their standard, because I'm going to learn it. And therefore, I don't need your grades. So I would very respectfully request no grades. So I'll take exams, I'll write papers, but I just do not want you to put an assessment on what I'm learning, because I know I'm learning, and that's all that matters. And so that's what I did. And it was so awesome. And really still hard. Nothing got any easier. But it was like, if I'm not learning, that's the problem. But you can't evaluate my learning according to your standards. So that was that.
So how do you deal with that with your own students?
You all, I don't evaluate. The classes that I'm responsible for, there's no evaluation. It's just, did you show up? Did you do what you said you were going to do? It's basically just as if you were like pushing a time clock. You showed up for work, so you got paid for the hours you were there, and you go home, because I just do not. So basically, you just get credit for being fulfilling your commitments, because there is no way I can tell that you learned an outstanding amount of things and you only learned at an average level. How do I know that? You know that. In fact, most people that get A's, you probably don't deserve an outstanding. You probably were pretty average and probably knew all that stuff mostly to begin with. But if you actually did something really hard that you couldn't even imagine yourself doing and you got a C, maybe that's actually really the A, because you did this outstanding job of learning. I just think grades are so irrelevant to what learning actually is. Like, it's really true. You can clap for that. It's unbelievably irrelevant. And so, yeah. Did I answer it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if you don't feel like, if we humans don't feel smarter, more empowered, more able to do things, see the world in ways that we didn't see it before, like all these things that go along with expansive, when we leave a classroom, when we're done with something, we didn't learn, and we need to realize that for ourselves and figure out, how can I just go learn something? We're all built to learn.
Okay, so what would you say about this class then, who... No, just help me out, because you're gonna put me in a corner here.
I am about to.
Yeah. So the problem is, what students say oftentimes is...
I feel like I have to get closer to you for this one.
Yeah, all right. Listen. Students will say...
Peanut gallery right here.
Is, right,
Does this happen every class?
No, it doesn't.
Just
it's
today.
Just because you're here. It's because those chocolate chip cookies got something special in them. So... Hey,
he has a whole container of chocolate chip cookies right there, everybody. Yeah. I know you did. So
a lot of times students say, well, I know, but I learned so much, but I didn't do well in the quizzes, and I'm going to get a B, but I really should get an A because of how much I've transformed my thinking and that sort of thing. And I feel like my hands are tied because I'm just assigning grades. But grades don't mean anything. They're just letters. I don't really care. Just like these letters, it doesn't matter because I know that just
No. You're in a different position, though.
Okay, go ahead.
So there's this thing like where you are in the position where you have to treat the 800 people equitably. That's a thing. So you can't just be like, Simon, right? Hey, Simon. Yeah, I understand. You had this little thing go on. I understand that. I have compassion. I'll help you out. Well, what about all of the people in the middle row and the back row and the whatever who also had that but didn't talk to you, right? Or just didn't even think of X, Y, or Z. You just can't do. That's something else. Talking about grades in this way, it's like you got to just forget the whole system of grades and education. But when you're in the system, you still have to treat everybody the same.
Yeah. Got you.
So to speak, even though we all have different circumstances, but it's sort of, can you put out a system that at least your commitment is to treat people equitably?
Mm-hmm. Unless and once in a while students will come to me, or they've heard your story or something, and they've come to me and said, don't give me a grade or whatever it is, which is very cool. Okay. You got me off the hook right there. Okay. Next one. We're going to turn toward race relations.
Can we hear from someone else first? Can we get someone else in this conversation first?
Slow it down.
Oh,
right.
Good. Thanks, DJ. I was just thinking about DJ.
Yeah. Does anybody have a question they want to ask before I go to my next question?
Or a comment.
A comment?
How about
question?
Other things.
All right, man. Who's got a question or a comment? Raise your hand. There was some? All right. Anybody? Anybody got one?
Come on. You have to hear some.
Dude,
there
yeah,
you go.
you got it. I'm talking about, we started with penises and clitori, you know what I mean? Bro.
I come from engineering, which is kind of a more scientifically and analytically disciplined curriculum. So if you would suggest that grades are kind of irrelevant there, how do you gauge students on their understanding? Because I would argue that it's kind of academically irresponsible to send people who haven't been evaluated on their performance to go build our bridges, which need to be structurally sound.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's about my evaluation. I know that when you go into the world, first of all, I'm not going to send you out as a brand new student graduate to go build a bridge by yourself, but very quickly the people that you're building a bridge with will know, like, whoa, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I just think that we so undervalue the actual work that we do in the world and that we will do and that people will see. And I just think, like, actually our transcripts really send people, again, it's just another one of those, like, it's like a commercial for yourself, but it doesn't necessarily equate with who actually is brilliant, who does the most creative work, who's the best problem solver. There's so many things. It basically says you're good at following the educational rules that you were supposed to follow. And I mean, I'm not saying this is complete, like their evaluation has a place, but it's way overvalued. And I think we have so much opportunity in the world to just do the work, do the work, and that's where it'll show what you know and what you can do. So I think engineering is actually a really, really good example of that, because you can't fake it. You know what I mean? It either works or it doesn't work. Whereas here, social science, it's like, oh, that's an idea.
So in other words, if he shows up in the world with straight A's and he gets on the job and they're like, hey, we hired you to do all this stuff, someone's going to see very quickly if he's a dullard and he had straight A's, and they're going to see he's a dullard immediately and be like, oh, but we're still
you won't advance. You know what I mean? And I think the fact that we have these measures, oh, but he's the such and such scholar. Okay, well, if he is, then he or she will do a great job. But like, coming from a working class family, where I come from a family of electrical contractors that work with engineers all the time, right? And they're like, they don't know what they're doing. Like, that's great that they had a college education, but like, do they know this? Do they know this? Do they know that? Do they know that? So anyway, I think in the world, it gets obvious really quickly. When you're in school, you can't really feel that because it's not real.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, if a student is learning like basic fundamental concepts and they demonstrate that they clearly just are not grasping it, they aren't like understanding the basic mathematical concepts behind it. If not with a grade, then how do you like let that student know that the way they're performing now is straight up not going to cut it in the workplace, if not with some sort of standard of evaluation?
Yeah, I mean, I just think when you don't know something, then you can't advance, and you just won't. I mean, we don't have to, like, I'm not trying to say that there's no, I think grades are a shorthand, right? And so it's just like, basically this shows that you can advance. You know how to read. Okay, great. You're able to speak basic Spanish because I said that you could. All I'm saying is that the students who how many of you in this class, I wonder, have taken a language and have gotten a good grade but can't speak the language? Many. And that, to me, it's a similar thing. It's like, just go speak the language. And maybe most the C students who are actually then fluent in the language because they just said whatever, it's actually about speaking, it's not about the grade. Again, I'm not trying to set these up into dichotomies, but there's a lot more room for understanding our own value and how much we know than our grades. And I don't think I think the hard sciences, so to speak, and STEM, that's the perfect example. Do you know what I mean? If you can't stitch somebody up after they've like cut themselves, then you're not succeeding as a person who can do that. You know what I mean?
Regardless of what grade you got.
Yeah, really. I mean, there's plenty of people who could do surgery who probably didn't need to go to medical school to figure out how to do. Again, I'm going to get snarky about it and I don't need to, but it's just thinking about that grades only can measure very limited dimensions, and they're useful in the ways that the systems are set up right now. Totally, I would not say they're not useful, and there's a lot more.
Yes.
So my question is also regarding grades and the grading system that we're using, and I'm curious as if you believe that grades can actually serve as a good form of motivation for wanting to learn and wanting to succeed. Because I'm sure for a number of us, including myself, if I didn't have to work or spend hours at a time in the library and spend night and day studying for an exam, I probably wouldn't know the material for a lot of these things. And along with this, if I want to go see a physician, see a doctor, I'd want one who has the work ethic, who is willing to put in the time to study for these exams in med school and in college, so that they could be able to treat me better than someone who is very knowledgeable at heart, but potentially lazy or might not have a higher work ethic.
Dude, I'm dying to hear how you respond to this.
Okay. So I actually want to say this to everyone. That's such a, to me, what you're saying, and I agree that a grade can be like a little gift when you're done with all that hard work, to let you know that you did that work, and let other people know. So I'm not saying that that's a small thing, but you all are so much bigger than that. Like, you are essentially built to learn. You are essentially built to master things that matter to you and matter to the world around you. And so I think when we train generations of humans to care about the grade that they get, what it's telling me is they are not caring about what matters to them. Matters because I got to get better at this, because I have to live better. I have to build a better world. I have to take care of the people around me. I have to heal things. Because we have that capacity, and that in itself is what's reinforcing to learning. Of course you want to learn when you know you're going to build a bridge or heal a person, or learn CPR and save your grandma or something. You know what I mean? Learning matters. You know what I mean? Grades don't. They really don't. They only do in a very short, tiny little way. But when you think about life itself, learning is its own reinforcement. That's what I was trying to say earlier. You'll know when it's mattering to you. And if it doesn't matter to you, you probably shouldn't do it, because you're not going to be a good doctor or a good engineer or a good dialogue facilitator or a good lawyer or a good teacher or a good electrician or plumber or whatever. That's going to suck for everybody.
Yeah.
Yo, Laurie.
Okay. Wait, we got it.
One more.
Wait. Oh, go ahead.
Wait.
Sorry, I thought that was...
No, I want to get...
I was just going to say, I've heard a lot of people who hire people talk about what college actually does, and all it is a way that they can see that you can jump through hoops and do what you have to meet the bare minimum of your position. Everything else that you do, it doesn't matter what your grade was in whatever freaking class or what your GPA was when you ended in school. None of that matters. All it is just to jump through hoops and say, oh yeah, you can do it. Basically.
Okay, Laurie's going to make one response to that, and then we're going to move on to the next question.
By the way, a place like college where you can learn all day, all the time, you can just walk around and go into a building and just find some other person who can teach you something amazing, is awesome. It is awesome. I'm starting to see people are trying to create these things for people in midlife now. You might have heard of South by Southwest or Naples Next. It's the coolest thing to be able to come together with other humans and do what you all get to do right now. So please don't take what I'm saying as undermining you being here, because it's amazing. It's just that when we get distracted by the grade, we miss out on the incredible opportunities that exist on this campus and all the other campuses like it. This is an awesome, awesome opportunity.
Okay, you can keep this. This is really, could be big. This is your life work, my friend. So you can feel free. We have a bunch of things I want to get to, so you can keep it fairly short. You want to do this one?
Is this what you want me to do? I can.
Yeah. No, this is you. This is you.
All right. Why are you asking me this question?
Because you are, in my humble opinion, the guru. I have never in my life encountered a white person who understands, is able to hold...
Wait, that's okay. I'll stop you. I'll cut you off.
All right.
I'm just going to cringe no matter what you say next. So I'm just interrupt the cringe. Okay, so I just have to say, I am from the working class. My family, I grew up and am from Newark, New Jersey. Nork, for those of us from the area. That's N-O-R-K, if you didn't understand the pronunciation. That's how we pronounce it. Anyway, what that means is, and I grew up, it doesn't matter. The point being, I am the poster child of a person who grew up actually in a really not in a very multicultural world, but in a white community, growing up very much like a white-centric world. And not in the world that, even though we're very segregated and we all tend to grow up in these little pockets still, it was a very different consciousness then. So anyway, I'm a really good example of a non-woke person. But a person who also was fundamentally transformed by what I learned about the world and what I hadn't known growing up, right? So for me, growing up in Newark, for those of you who don't know, it's very much a black city, and when I was growing up, it was really transforming. And so for me, as a white person, the issues of race, white people and black people in the U.S. was like what I grew up in, and in a very embroiled time when there was uprisings, if you will, from other people's perspectives, riots in that city. So anyway, that's just the background for you. Oh my God, I don't think I can say anything without it being difficult to understand. I've also, so I'm very, very much, my life is built on and I'm very connected to the race issues in the United States and what I've learned about, done. I've also had the opportunity to travel a lot. And so that has also shown me a lot of the limitations of the way we think about some things. Anyway, what I know is that the more polarized we are, the more dangerous it is for all of us. And the less likely we think that it is our job to build bridges with people who don't think like us and who we don't value how they think, the more dangerous it is for all of us. And I do mean dangerous. And I don't mean I just don't feel comfortable in a situation. I mean dangerous. Because when people are polarized, what happens is a power vacuum between them, and usually dark forces hijack that power vacuum. And we see it all over the world, and we just saw it in New Zealand when the person who did that shooting at the mosque pretty much said that. And most people, ordinary people, are not thinking about the fact that, the point is, if we humans do not reach out to people whose ideas we don't value, no matter who you are, you have that group of people, we all do, we make it more dangerous. That's the basic bottom line of what I could say about all things that I've learned since growing up in that conflict in Newark.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so on a sub piece of this, is there any just short thing that you would say to white Americans that is generally true, that you've learned?
That we don't see the way. So let me say before I answer. So one of the things that I'm going to say something parallel to this. What we don't see in the world is the way a lot of the world is built around, I'm going to say men. And why I know that is because we don't account for cycling people, right? When you're a woman, you're on a cycle every day of the month. Every day is a different day. Day 1, day 5, day 9, day 28. There's no day that's like yesterday, right? And for men, you don't have that like constant cycle. So if you just think about healthcare, we think, hey, take this medicine and let me know how you're doing in 3 weeks. Well, for a woman, 3 weeks from now, I'm in a different part of my cycle. I can't tell you how I'm doing because I'm going to be doing differently no matter what medicine I'm taking, right? And so the idea being like we really need to think in so many ways, medicine is just one, about the difference between cycling people and non-cycling people, right? But we're sort of centered on a human who doesn't have a cycle, which tends to be men, right? Even though we're not thinking that. So just in the way we talk about things a lot, if you're a woman, you think, they're not really talking about me because I have a cycle. So it's going to take me 3 cycles to figure out if something helped me, if this medicine helped, right? Okay, so you get that, right? There's a difference between cycling people and non-cycling people, but we never talk about the cycling people. With race, so this is just to people who are in any majority, and in this case, white people. So many things are like that we don't talk about white people maybe, but things are centered. We can see that, the assumption of that person is that's a white person. The alternative or the other culture or the people who are different, that just assumes normal is white, normal is male, normal is heterosexual. It's the same thing, right? That's it. I would just say we still have a center. Center is American. Other people, foreign people. Right? And again, that's kind of normal. But I would just say that.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
That's it?
No, that's cool. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, we're moving on. No, very cool, actually. Actually, no. That was actually a really cool. Hang on. Hold on a second. Dude, connecting it to cycling is awesome.
Okay. Maybe you can do a class about that.
Yeah, I'll bring you back. All right, ready? We're not going to do that. Can you do that one?
You're making my life so difficult.
Can you do that?
The needy penis was easy compared to this.
All right. Okay, hang on.
What do you want me to do? I can answer. What is that? What is the question?
Just like the idea that you hear this a lot. We hear this a lot from.
Can you do some things?
All right, hang on.
This wasn't supposed to be just an interview of me.
No, it wasn't supposed to be anything. I just told you you'd be surprised, and so now you're surprised.
I'm surprised.
Okay, hang on. We're going to go to this one. I'm going to make this one easier. All right? That. What do you think? What do you think people need to know about me? They would make that. They would allow them to understand more about what this class is. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Look at the peace sign earring.
I mean, I don't know.
No, not that photo.
Does he seem like that guy, or does he seem like he's not that guy? He's that guy. Is he that guy? That's funny. I don't know. What can I say?
No. Here's my question. What do you think if people understood whether they get something out of this class or don't get something out of this class? What do you think would be really just valuable? People really understood about me that probably almost nobody knows.
I have an
except
answer.
You.
I mean, I have a better idea.
All right.
What if we asked if you got some questions and I answered them?
What's that?
What if
about me?
What if you had some questions and I answer them?
About me?
Yeah, about you.
All right, cool.
Because I don't know can I just say, when I met Sam, the first day I met him, but this lasted for several months, I was like, this is not someone I would even want as a friend. That was like the thought that went through my mind when I first met him. I didn't even hear a word out of his mouth, and that was my thought. I'm like, oh my God, he's so annoying.
And why did you come talk to me the very first time?
Which part?
What was the reason you came to speak with me?
I came to speak to Sam because I was in his class, and he was saying, oh, he's telling the whole class, this class is going to change your life. Oh my God, this is going to change your life. And I was like, all right, that's cool. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm like, this class is not changing my life, Sam. And by the way, you're annoying because you contradict yourself all the time. And so I would be like, why are you saying this? You just said that. It's so annoying. That's all I could think. And so I was like, and he would beg people to come to his office hours every day. Like, come on, I'm just sitting there. I'm blah, blah, blah. Come talk to me. So I was like, all right, I'll come talk to you. And what'd you say? Yeah, I mean, this was like, he was a grad student, you know? He was just like hanging out and so I came to his office to tell him how annoying he was, and how it wasn't changing my life. And then it did.
All right.
Clearly my life was changed.
Yeah, it was a class of 20 people, so it was very different.
Yeah, it was a really
Does
tiny
anyone
class.
have a question?
Yeah,
Does
yeah.
anyone have a specific question they want to ask? Because we'll move.
Wait. I want to hear.
Hang on, my friend.
So I have a question regarding expectations, because it seems like, especially in heterosexual couples, like your expectation wasn't to be like, oh yeah, this is the man of your dreams. So like how do those things evolve? Like, does it mean that are we just compatible with anyone?
Good questions. Really good. Okay. All right. Really good questions. Whew. Yeah, so specifically, this guy did not meet any expectations that I had ever, right? On any level.
No, I did not. We're still working on it. As this, this class did not meet any expectations.
That's
so,
true, too.
know.
No, yeah, really, he did not fit what I was expecting, like maybe what I grew up thinking that was the right thing, or how I would know if this was a person that I would be attracted to. He didn't fit any of that. So I really do feel challenged by wondering, could we just be connected to anyone? I think there is a lot more potential to build relationships than I think I thought when I was growing up. But I also know that this is really interesting. I think when I think now about the profile that I have, about somebody who was going to be X, Y, or Z, it was saying a lot more about my internal world than what I think I got, which was somebody who actually challenged my whole being and made me a better person. And I think relationships have the potential to expand us. And I think, though, that we want to just feel good. And really quickly, relationships don't make you feel good if they actually are real. And so it's really hard to know whether the not feeling good is because you have your own work to do or because it's not a relationship for you. It's really difficult. It's a razor's edge. And so I don't know what to say about expectations, except I don't take them so seriously. I just don't. Yeah, and I think that's probably not a bad idea.
I like that answer. Just because it's so real, and it's just, especially when you don't know if it's just yourself or if it's just a relationship, because I don't know, I just went through something like that.
And I'm not talking about things where you're like physically in danger. I'm just talking about that emotional level where you're like, oh, this is really hard. I don't like this. I want to have fun. And it's like, ooh, but there's a possibility here to build. And is it something can I? I mean, it's, so much to talk about. But yeah, expectations, I don't take them so seriously anymore.
Okay, so I have a question following that one up. I just wanted to know what your comments are on compatibility and the limitations of compatibility, and if you have anything to say about how we may or may not be compatible in things like race or religion or even differences in wealth or just any other factors that we think sometimes shouldn't matter in compatibility, but maybe they do. What can you say about that?
Yeah. I like your building exactly on where you were. And even though Sam and I, it's funny, like we're both, these white working class people, and we look back, we're like, whoa, we actually come from a very similar background, even though New Jersey, Ohio, all this stuff. But honestly, when I look at Sam, I see an alien, and I did see an alien. And so I know. It's and so your question is really like, it's so spot on, because it's like we can get distracted really. So anyway, the cultural, class, like sociological, all those categories are real, right? If you don't share the same cosmic belief systems, i.e. religion, whatever, that's a real thing. If you're constantly encountering these cultural moments because you all are, are from different places, different cultures, obviously those are real things. But I swear to you, like two humans of any kind trying to do a thing together, like a long-term relationship, is a ridiculous proposition to begin with. And so compatibility, it's like there's so much potential for transformation in a relationship, like any relationship, like we really affect each other and can affect each other. And so because there's so much because so many things can change, compatibility is a really difficult thing. It's almost like it's less compatibility and it's more like do we agree to do this thing together?
No. Do we agree to be transformed together in ways that we can't predict at this point in time?
But isn't that part of the compatibility? Like you know that you're going to be able to transform together. You have to have that idea in your mind. I feel like there's limitations across cultures, or even just different people that you can see that you wouldn't be able to transform with a specific person.
I don't know if you can see it. I think that what's a really good thing for, and I think we're talking right now just about relationships that have an intention to have some lasting quality to them. So I'm just going to speak to that. And I think you can't really see if it's going to be possible. Like, I don't know that you can predict that. I think what a relationship needs is a trial. I've seen many relationships that had a really beautiful foundation, lots of good love between them, but they didn't have a trial, between them. They didn't have something that they really had to work through together. And so they didn't build, I'll say in this case, a marriage. The marriage is really like that experience of what do we do when we're really tested together. And that's where you see whether you're compatible or not, right? Because who knows who's compatible until you're actually in something together. And so I really do feel like it's not something that you like when you get it, but it actually really has the power to show you what compatibility actually is. Hang on a second. There was someone right here who had.
Well, hang on. Can we go to? And Simon's going to get the last question. Ready? Can we go to this one? I got one more. I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
I have two more things I want you to talk about. This is great, by the way. Thanks for that.
Thanks for that question.
So here you are. There you are in Ethiopia, here you are in Qatar, here you are in India, and here you are in Iraq, speaking live on Iraqi television, right? What have you learned from all of this? What have you learned? And you got just your 1 minute answer. What have you learned about the world from all of, and beyond and beyond and beyond? This person who never wanted to travel.
Yeah, who never wanted to travel. That there is... What have I learned? That there is no one to fear. Period. There's no one to fear. I mean, that's it. There's no people who are scary. There's no culture who is threatening. There's no place that is scary. It's just like people are just, there's no one. I'm not afraid of anyone.
Okay. Last one, and then we'll open it up.
Oh, God. Is this like...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That is a box, a wooden box that is in our dining room, the place that we eat. And inside of that box, and Sam made that box, and we wood burned those letters, or those words on the outside of it. And it's a inside of that box is one copy of a book that we wrote for the one of us who survives the other's death. And it's 365 small essays that would be for that person to have one essay per day to read from the two of us to that person. And it's called Becoming Eternal. And that's what we did one time. We wrote that. So it was... What? Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah. And what does... So, I'm just going to put you on the spot, as if I haven't already. What does that mean? What does that? There's one copy. That's it. No one's ever. No. So, all right. So no one. No one's ever going to read that except either you or me. And yeah, what's that? How do you live with that? How do you sit with that? If we both
happens,
die,
actually.
I'm going to put it in my will to Simon. and Leslie, yeah, you guys can duke it out over it. Yeah, Leslie's going to translate it into neo-Marxist ideology. And Simon will bake it into cookies and smoke it. Yeah.
What was your question again?
I don't have another question. Whatever. It's done. Dude.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think, I don't know what I think about that on a daily basis, but what I do know is that I do think on a daily basis that, it's fleeting. Everything that we do is mortal. And that's, sometimes it can be sad, but at the same time, it's liberating to know that it's nothing lasts, right? Which means also the things that are hard. Everything changes, everything flows eventually. And it's not easy to live with that knowledge. And I think us poor humans, really, we need to be given a break for being put here and having to figure it out and not have someone just give us the operating instructions for this thing, or the blueprint, which I'm seeking. So if anyone else is seeking it, I'd like to meet you and see if you got a little piece. But anyway, you know what I mean? You have to feel sorry for us as humans sometimes to just be like, oh man, it's hard. It's hard to do all this, work really hard, care about all these people, and then be like, oh, and you're dying at the end by yourself.
And everyone you know.
And everyone you know is dying too. Yep.
We're all going to die.
I mean,
and some of you, some people here have
we all
close family members who are dying. I mean,
right now, exactly. We all do. We all are in the midst of loss and regeneration at the same time. We're all there. And that just makes it, if you just know that about all of us, no matter where we come from, I don't know. It gives me a lot of compassion for us. Because it's not easy.
Can you also make a pitch for why it would be that people would want to be involved in an organization, something like World in Conversation, for which you are the executive director?
Yeah, because we have the basic idea that conflict, Jeff, is not the problem, it's the solution. And that it's our post for today. And the mindset that, so when you become or you work with dialogue and you get to become a dialogue facilitator, what you develop more than the skills, like specific communication skills, is a mindset that actually lets you see differently. You will not see the same way when you're done, and you may never be done, but your worlds, our worlds, my world, could all benefit from actually being able to like see like, what is this craziness that's happening? Nobody agrees about anything. There's all this polarization, blah, blah, blah. How can I see this? You can see it. There's a way to see it differently. And yeah, but you have to actually be in a practice of something like facilitating. So that's it. So if you did it, you'd get a lot. It would be cool.
And there's still opportunities, always. Okay. All right, my man.
Free money.
So I've been wondering about this question for a while, like especially about Sam. Like, how much you guys smoke weed together? and what are you doing later today?
Dude. You can answer that.
That hasn't happened for a long time. No. Yeah, we have a beer at night a lot, but I haven't smoked weed with Sam for a long time. But we learned from that experience actually a lot. So there is some medicine there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, yeah, that's the answer.
Is there anything you remember you could say that we learned from that medicine?
I think what that, and honestly, I think it's medicine if it's used as medicine. No, I don't mean like used for pain, but I mean like spiritual, psychological medicine. What I learned is that the way that I walk through the world, or was walking through the world, was very limited in what I could see, and like, you know, allowing myself to see things in some different ways was actually medicine.
Cool. Last question. Who's got a question? Who wants to ask one?
My question is just about like a relationship. So like obviously you guys have like a really healthy relationship, and just curious like what advice you would give to like kids our age who think that they understand romance, or like what do you guys do that makes like you work that allows you to do that, if that makes sense.
Dude.
Yeah.
I actually could. I'll try.
I'd like to hear that.
A commitment to learning and change, a commitment to transforming our minds, our thinking about everything, and which is kind of one of the things about this class. Sometimes people think that I'm committed to a particular thought or an idea or something, but any idea that I have and every moment that I'm talking ever, I know that I might not have that idea. As soon as it comes out of my mouth, I might change it, because I'm always ready to change and transform. And so in a relationship, I'm always ready to change and be transformed. There's nothing that I have a certain personality, but I could have the opposite personality next week, which would be awesome. And that the idea that would be awesome, I could live a different life. And so I think that's the commitment. The commitment is to the transformation.
And I think the commitment, and I think this came from Sam, so it's going to sound like it's coming from me, but I think it came from Sam. Really, the commitment was to love. I felt like afraid to say that word. The commitment was to love, and what that actually meant is that we were willing to talk about anything and say anything, and not just be in the, ooh, I got to make sure I get you a birthday present because birthdays are a thing. Like, it'd be like, wait, birthdays aren't a thing for me. They're a thing for you. We need to talk about that. Like that. Just like whatever it is, or like, I don't like when that happens, or I love this instead of, no things that are off limits, and no bullshit that's like, oh, let's pretend that this is great. No. It's like love will not survive with pretending. And so it's just like no pretending, and that means all the things we were socialized to believe, we can't hold on to them if they don't serve the higher purpose of love.
Yeah.
I hope that helps. Enjoy the day, you all.
Thanks for coming. All right, y'all. See you. Yeah. Thank you. All right.